All right, so what do we have here now? We have our outline in the form of three different curves. How do we convert those curves into surfaces? Well, we're going to use a command called skin. So I go out to the perspective view, like so. Let me just check one thing. Okay. So I'm going to bring these curves up at least 5 or 6 millimeters so that it is above my top surface. So let's bring our top surfaces to life again. We have them right here. You can see them. So I want to bring my newly created curves up above this surface and mirror that so it's below the bottom surface right here. So let's do that. Pick nothing, pick curves, pick all the curves present, like so, and then go move. And by using the right mouse button, move them up above the surface, something like that. I can then mirror these curves same way as I did with the surface by using edit, duplicate, mirror, make sure I have the XY plane checked, and then go. That gives me another set of curves down here. Now we're going to create surfaces between these curves. So I'm going to, first of all, turn off the shading, but also turn this one off. And we could probably do without the canvas now also, so we clearly see what we're doing here. Let's also turn off the grid by hitting show and grid. And also, I'd like to turn off the CV points for these curves, which I do here in the control panel, CV hull, like so. So I'm going to use a command called skin, and skin basically creates a surface between two curves, and it's very useful for various surface creation situations. So let's go to surfaces, skin, and hit the little square here so we get the controls up as well. So I'm going to hit the two circular parts first. First that one, and then this one. That gives me instantly a surface. You can see it here. But this surface is completely flat in this direction. And we need, or we want to, put a little shape to it. And to do that, we could use the crown mode, which is right here. So if I click that, it's a proportional crown. And I can actually, and I want this to be curved slightly outwards. And you can see that the arrow is pointing inwards here. So I'm going to flip that arrow by using my control window here. If I can find that. You probably see it. I don't. Crown mode, crown flip right there. So we flip the arrow and then pull this arrow slightly outwards. You can see if I pull it exaggerated, it becomes really, I don't know, shaped. So let's bring that out to maybe 0.05 or something like that. That gives me a nice crowned shape of this surface right here. I can then move on to the next curve, click this curve and that curve, and get the same amount of crown as I used on this one, meaning that these two surfaces will connect nicely. And finally, if I hit next, I can create a surface over here. Now this one has the arrow pointing inwards, so you can see that the crown is going in. So we need to flip that as well, like that. And now they nicely connect. So what do we have here? Let's have a look. This is our outline, and combined with the top and bottom surface, this will cover the shape of the entire key knob. We have one more little thing to do, which is the horn up here, because we have a gap here. So let's turn those top and bottom surfaces off. And let me introduce to you another tool called Surface Fillet, which is a neat little tool. We need to somehow connect these and maintain the shape that we have in our canvas plane. So let's try and create this little horn here. Now, Surface Fillet connects two surfaces with a rounded surface in between, and you can set all kinds of shapes and radiuses and so on between them, simply by first clicking the first surface and then clicking the second surface. So let's go to Surfaces, Multi-Surface Fillet, and Surface Fillet, and go to the little square right here. So I click my first surface, which turns pink. It should have a little arrow on it, but when I click the second one, I get my arrows. These arrows are supposed to point towards the radius center. In this case, they are correct. I can always flip them, but that will fail if I try to make that surface. So arrows inwards, and let's hit build and see what it does. Well, it did something, but it's way too big, isn't it? To look at it like this. And there are a number of ways to manipulate the looks of a surface fillet, and you can play around with that. First one is the construction type. We have radius and chord, and you don't need to worry about that. But the second one is the G1 tangent, meaning that this transition here is going to be tangent. You could use a bunch of different ones. So let's say we go to G2 curvature and see what that does. Also, we need to click the auto update down here in order for the changes to happen. That it did not want to do at all. So we probably need to bring down this center radius here, or bring it up maybe. Oh, there we go. So bring it down. And that puts us a little bit closer to what we want. So let's hit a top view, F5, and have a look at what we're getting here. Starting to look somewhat like what we want, but we need to sharpen this horn a little bit more. And we can do that by playing with the form factor of this surface right here. So if I pull this one, oops, there we go. And we need it to be slightly sharper. So I'm going to bring down the radius to maybe, I don't know, 1.8 or something. Nope, that did not work. There we go. I'm not really happy with that, but it's going to have to do for now. We have roughly the shape that we want, and that gives us all the surfaces we need to capture the basic shape of our key knob. Let's bring on the top surfaces as well. Pick them all, turn off the CV points, and have a look at what we have. So if I shade this up, I'm going to use not the showroom, but the diffuse one. I like that one. So you can now see that our surfaces are well covering what we want to keep. And the next step here is now to intersect these surfaces, creating curves on surface, and then trim them down to the basic shape. And to do so, I'm going to turn off the shading. I'm going to also turn off the canvas image like that. We need to create what we call curves on surface. I do have a bunch of curves that I created, but I might want to use them later, so I'm going to keep them in a separate layer. So let's create a new layer called curves. Pick all the curves and assign them to this new layer, and then turn that layer off so they're invisible. So now it looks something like this. So what I want to do is to create intersection curves between all of these surfaces in order to trim down the surfaces. The intersection curves are called curves on surface, and they are used to describe the outline of the actual surface that I want to keep. So this top surface, for instance, is a lot bigger than what I want. I only want to keep the part that goes inside here. So I need a way to cut off the parts that sticks out. So let's go to middle button on my marking menus and intersect. So I'm going to click the top and bottom surface and then go to intersect those two with all of these surfaces that go around. So I click go like that, and then click on that surface, on that surface, even on that little surface fillet over here, like so, and finally on the surface on the opposite side over here, like that. I can now hopefully trim my surfaces by using middle mouse button and go to trim. So I click my surface, I then click the part I want to keep, since keep is marked down here, like that, and spacebar. That trims the top surface to this boundary over here. But I also see that this one is sticking up too far, so I need to trim that as well. I'm going to wait with that and intersect the bottom surface first. Or trim the bottom surface first, sorry. So I go trim, click this surface and the part I want to keep by doing so. Now, all that's left is to trim off the extension of the side surface here. So I'm going to go trim with that one as well. So I click this surface and I want to keep this part, spacebar. This surface right here, this I want to keep, spacebar. Turn it around. This surface right here, this part I want to keep, spacebar. And finally, my surface fillet that I want to keep, this part right here, like that. And now we have the basic shape of our key knob, which concludes this little film. Thank you for listening.